Mary Ng, welcome to 7:30.
It's really great to be here with Sarah.
The Canadian Prime Minister won a temporary reprieve from the United States and President Trump's tariffs after threatening retaliatory tariffs, a popular move amongst Canadians who it seems don't like being bullied. What should Australia learn from Canada's initial response?
Well, let me just start by saying how great it is to be here in Australia. And Sarah, I'm here with 220 incredible Canadian companies that are looking to do business here in Australia. And for certain, in Canada's context, we have been very clear. We will not initiate anything, but we certainly are ready to respond. For Australia, I think Australia's will need to make a decision in consideration of their economy and their relationship with America. For us, America is our largest trading partner. We do $1.3 trillion of trade every year. And what I have said to the Americans, the businesses that operate in America, that a tariff on Canada really will just make life a lot more expensive for Americans at the pumps, in the grocery stores, and it simply isn't a good idea.
Now, I noticed that Chrystia Freeland, the former Canadian finance minister and a prime ministerial candidate, she said, I'll quote her, "It takes guts to stand up to a disruptor like Trump. It requires a willingness to stand up to bullies." Is that the right way to deal with Donald Trump, to stand up to him?
Well, I think that's what you've seen in Canada's response. Prime Minister Trudeau, when we received the executive order, there would be tariffs applied to Canada, 25% across the board, 10% on energy. We had been prepared with a response, and we communicated that response. I'm pleased that through the work that Prime Minister Trudeau and the President have done is now to have a reprieve, because we have a shared perspective and a shared view about what we could do together around the cooperation at our border. But absolutely, if tariffs are put onto Canada, we will respond, and we will respond with impact.
Does Canada take Donald Trump, President Trump, seriously when he says that Canada should be absorbed into the United States as an additional state?
Well, one always must take the president and what the president says seriously. But let me be clear. Canada is not going to be the 51st state of the United States of America. We are a sovereign country, and we will continue to be a sovereign country.
Now, should targeted countries, including Australia, agree on a unified response? Is there room for that, for a unified response that would include Australia?
I think that there's an opportunity always to work with your trading partners and those around the world to which Canada has good relationships with, who share values, particularly standing up for the rules-based trading order.
Could that be a common tariff agreed on by different countries?
We haven't had those discussions. I can say...
Didn't come up with Minister Farrell?
No, we didn't have those discussions. But are there ways to work together? Of course. We haven't gotten into any of those details, but we, Canada has access to 65% of the world's economy through our existing free trade agreements. So it behooves us to be able to work with our trading partners to see what we could be doing together.
Is it fair to say that the idea of actually joining together in a joint action is on the table?
We're not there. And I think that what Canada is very focused on is what we need to do in Canada to stand up for our workers and to stand up for our businesses and to work with the Americans to avoid these tariffs. So let's make sure that we are doing this work, but let's also at the same time ensure that we are both diversifying, but also finding ways where we might be able to collaborate in the rules-based system to which we all have benefited and should continue to benefit from.
Now, one of the other ideas that's come out of the Trump administration post the levelling of the steel and aluminium tariffs was the idea of levelling tariffs to counteract the impact of sales taxes like VAT, like the GST we have in Australia. Does that make sense?
Well, tariffs don't make sense. I've been crisscrossing America for well over a year as part of the Team Canada-U.S. engagement, well before the election. And the purpose of that really was to engage with those Canadian and American businesses and investors who do this important trade between the two countries, to advocate that ways in which we can strengthen our trade, and to raise the awareness that instruments like tariffs really make no sense, and they make no sense for Americans.
Yes, and specifically on the idea of trying to level up sales taxes in Canada, in Europe, in Australia.
We're looking at that and trying to understand what that really means for Canada. So that work is being looked at.
Let me just come back to the kinds of conversations that are taking place inside the Canadian government, because yes, you've threatened retaliatory tariffs, but the Prime Minister did raise critical minerals. He also raised the supply of energy, of electricity to the United States. Are you thinking about going beyond retaliatory tariffs to withholding supplies of either energy, electricity, any of those materials to the US?
Well, should Canada get tariffs that are punishing tariffs that will hurt our economy, everything will be on the table. We have a response that we will be ready to issue. We hope we don't have to do that.
Just to go back on one thing and just to be clear, Canada would be prepared to put tariffs on oil and electricity going to the US from Canada?
Our tariffs, our retaliatory response is going to be, is going to have everything on the table, and therefore it's going to be very broad, and therefore we've looked all across. But we've also been very clear that in Canada that there's a need to ensure that not one part of the country will carry a greater burden than the other part of the country, which is why working as a whole of government and a Team Canada approach has essentially been what Prime Minister Trudeau has been doing all across the country with the provincial premiers and territorial leaders.
Minister, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you so much, Sarah.